Okay, I'm going to discuss your upcoming homework assignment that is due next week, and I'm going to be showing you the two different colorization processes that we worked on in class. So the homework assignment will be for you to come find two photos that you would like to use and do each one of the different colorization techniques that I'm going to show you. Now, the first colorization technique that we did was where we made a selection of an object or objects that we wanted to keep in color. And so I use the magnetic lasso here, and when you're working, as I said in class, when you're working with objects in your photo that have similar colors all the way around, you're going to want to probably use a magnetic lasso for the best type of selection. And you can see how I'm kind of clicking along here as well and moving very slowly. And then I go back to where I started, and you can see that little circle to the left of the magnetic lasso. And then that will allow me to close my selection. Now, the other thing I showed you as well is you can take away and add to the selection. So if you look here, I have an area where I don't want that in the selection. So I can go back to my magnetic lasso and I can hold down my Option key. And by holding down the Option key, you can see the minus sign appear next to the magnetic lasso. And basically that means I'm going to be removing a portion. Now you can also do it up here where I'm circling. You can just single selection, add to a selection, take away from a selection. But I find using the Option key for take away and the Shift key for add to be much more efficient when I'm doing selections such as this. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead and make my selection here. And you can see that now I've removed that part of the selection. Again, I think I might have, yeah, that was on the magnetic lasso. So again, you can just go in there and click away and remove it. And then if you're going to add, and another thing you can do as well is I find that when I'm zoomed in, I can go ahead and just use the regular lasso tool, which does a pretty good job. And I'll show you that. I'm just going to zoom in by going Command plus. And then I'm going to take my space bar and move out. And so if you look at the first tool, the lasso tool, which is a freehand lasso tool, I can hold down my Option, and if you're pretty good with the mouse, you can just get in there and just use the freehand lasso as well to take away. Option to take away, Shift to add to the selection. Okay, and then you can just take the space bar and kind of mosey your way through it and see other areas that you might have to add a little bit more to the selection, or Option to take away, Shift to add. Again, going to add a little bit here. And it doesn't have to be perfect until you're working on something that you are definitely wanting to make it look good. We'll go ahead and add a little shift here, add to there. So now the thing is I can also keep adding to this selection. If I wanted to, for example, take this guy right here, I would probably go back to my magnetic lasso and then Shift and then work at adding him to the selection. Again, so you can add multiple parts in your photograph with this technique by going Shift, and you can take away by going Option. I'm moving pretty fast here. Again, if you remember, I can go back and definitely make my adjustments after the fact. Now sometimes when you go back to where you started, if it doesn't click in, or let's say you can't quite get onto that first starting point, if you double click, it will also close the selection for you as well. So now I'm just going to go back to my freehand lasso tool and take a look here. And I'm going to just do a Shift and add here, do an Option, take away. This looks pretty good. I'll probably do a Shift here and add. And as you can see, it's pretty easy to get in here and do the adjustments. So I'm going to go Command 0, which will fit the photo back into the window. And as you can see here, I have my two selections. Now what I want to do is I want the background to be black and white, and then just leave these two people here selected and leave them in color. But if I go to my image, adjustments and saturation, and go desaturate, what will happen is I'm going to desaturate them. So what I need to do before I do this operation, I want to go to select, inverse. And so what this does for me, it selects the background. And so now the two men are not selected anymore. And then I can go image, adjustments, desaturate. And presto, I have my black and white spot color photo. Now the other thing too is when you are working with your photo, it's probably a good idea to go ahead and do a duplicate layer so that you can turn the original off, so you can always go back to the original photo. You don't have to worry about losing the original colors, etc. in the photo. Because if you remember from class, this particular adjustment is a permanent or destructive method. Now you could also go in, I think we, just one second here. So you could go into your adjustments panel and you could go to the black and white, and this would be the non-destructive way to do it. And thus you'll see that it has masked out the two selections I had and then made the background black and white, and you can see this new layer here. But for our purposes, that's kind of an extra step. If you want to do it that way, you can, but the main thing is that you're going to make a selection, invert it, and then desaturate it. Now we did work with the bike as well. One of the things I showed you here is if you have something of a lot, colors in here, you can start the selection process by going to color range. And in here you can actually say, look at all the reds. I want you to grab all the different reds in this photo. Then you click OK, and you can see that it has selected a large part of the red. Now you can also go select similar colors, and it actually even selected more of the red. And I could go back and try it again and see if it selects a little bit more. And I'm just going to cancel that out because you see it has gone now into the other areas. But then at this point you can do the option and get rid of some of those selections that occurred in the background. But now you've got a lot of red here that's been selected very nicely. And so this is where you can go to your quick selection tool. And if you remember, the bracket keys next to the letter P on your keyboard make your selection smaller or bigger. Okay, and I'm going to make this smaller. And the quick selection, whoops, you want to make sure with the quick selection that you are going to be adding to it. And again, you might have to make your brush a little bit smaller when you get into some of these areas here. Now the nice thing is that when you do the option, it works pretty well. It's just going up to the little red area here. So, and it doesn't have to be perfect. You just want to make sure that you got most of the reds that are in the bike, and I think that's looking pretty good. Probably just do a little bit more here by the handle. And then very similar to what we did with the Red Bull, we are going to do an invert and then do a desaturation. So once I'm happy again with the selections here, and here we can go ahead and again option to take away. And just do a little bit more here. Okay, and get it looking as good as you can. So now we'll go ahead and just finish that up here. Okay, and then what you're going to do is you're going to go select inverse, And then you can either go image, adjustments, desaturate, or as I said before, you can also do an adjustment layer and do black and white. Both of them working very well. So again, this is the one technique I want you to do with one of your photos. The second technique is where you're going to actually start out with a black and white photo. So if you do have a photo, say like you do have the bike here, and let's just go back into our history, and we'll just go back to the regular color. Go ahead and make a duplicate layer, hit OK, close off the regular layer, and then you can call the new, the one layer black and white if you want. So you have to do is click on the name twice in the layer palette. So now you know that this is the one you're going to be changing to black and white. And you just go image, adjustments, and then desaturate. Now the thing here is you're going to actually be making a new layer on top of your black and white photo. And then you're going to be taking a brush and you're going to be selecting a color. So if you double click in the foreground, select the color that you want to paint with. And so let's say I want to, paint this bike seat purple. So I can go ahead. Now if I select the bike seat, for example, if I want to don't want to go out of the lines, I can go ahead and let's say I want to select this little area here, and I'm going to make this a color here. So now when I go to paint, so let's say I want to paint that green and go back to my brush, I don't have to worry about going out of the lines because you can see I have it selected. Whereas when I was doing the purple, I've gone out of the lines a little bit. So now what we did was we went up here to the layer palette and we went to soft light. And so what happens now is that everything in here, you can see the details come through. It looks more realistic. Now, if I go back, and you can use the eyedropper tool to select a color. I can go back to normal and I can go to my eyedropper tool and select that purple again. And again, as I said, you have the soft light, then everything on this layer, because here's what the layer looks like, okay? But the thing is we put it in soft light. And I can go ahead and finish painting here. Now if I go out of bounds here, I can go to my eraser tool and you can just go ahead and erase it, because remember what I'm doing is I'm just working with this color that's on a different layer, okay? So anyway, so the second project you're going to be doing is going to be, or you take a photo, put it in black and white, and then go around and paint all sorts of fun things on it. Just like we did with the ranch house. Again, you can select what you want to do. The key to remember though is you want to make sure you have a new layer. This is where you're going to be doing the soft light color. And then you're going to go ahead and use the brush to paint. And after that, if you go back to soft light, everything will come up in that soft light mode. So I can go ahead and paint the jacket here, and again, if you don't use the selection tool, then just go ahead and grab the eraser tool and fine tune it. So those are your two assignments, and again, you'll be, please just save them. Save the one as soft light, which is the one where you turn to black and white and then color different components of it. And then the other one, you can just call it inverse color. And that's where you make your selections, invert, and then desaturate. So I hope this helps and have fun with your photos.